Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Dakbo Adigboye. The top stories at this hour. Atiku Abubakar promises to support Peter Obi if PDP zones presidency to southeast ahead of 2027 Nigeria election. Federal government holds issuance of electricity regulatory autonomy to state governments. Junta-run Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have finalized plans to form confederation. Details after now. Let's begin by telling you that the 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, says if in 2027 the party decides it is the Southeast's turn and selects Peter Obi as its candidate, it will readily offer his support. He also said a merger between the PDP and Labour Party is possible. Atiku added that members of the party would decide his fate in the 2027 general polls. He also mentioned that his recent meeting with Obi might indicate a possible alliance leading up to 2027 general polls. Last week, Obi held a private meeting with Atiku and some other PDP leaders in Abuja. In the meantime, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike, says he is not distracted by the ongoing crisis in Rivers State, but is instead focused on his duties as a minister. Wike made the statement during a final inspection tour of projects to be inaugurated in the nation's capital on Friday. The former governor and his successor, Sim Fubara, have been at loggerheads since October 2023, when some lawmakers in the state began impeachment proceedings against the governor. Last Saturday, while addressing a civic reception in the Ogu-Bolo River State, the minister said that he had made a mistake, which he promised to correct at the appropriate time. He, however, did not specify, having supported Fubara to succeed him as governor of the state. Now, I am joined on the news by News Central's correspondent, who is live in River State, Bernard Akede. Okay, I understand that Bernard would, of course, be joining us subsequently. But still, of course, in politics, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the appointment of 555 individuals as pro-chancellors and chairmen and members of the governing board of 111 federal universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. The list endorsed by the Ministry of Education appoints a chairperson and 4 members for each institution. An advertorial by the ministry signed by the Permanent Secretary Didi Esther Walson-Jack announced the inauguration and retreat of the Governing Council on May 30th to 31st, 2024 at the National Universities Commission in Abuja. The presidency confirmed the list originated from the Ministry of Education. This announcement follows threats of a strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities over delayed Governing Council appointments and dissatisfaction with salary increments. Let's also tell you that education experts in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory has expressed worries over the lack of qualified and skilled special education teachers, including sufficient teaching aids for children and adults with special needs in the country. This, they say, can improve access to education of children with special needs, as News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu tells us more.
According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Nigeria's national policy on education, the peculiarities of special needs students must be considered and taken as a priority to make them have unhindered access to education. However, this is not the case in Nigeria, as education experts say these needs are usually not considered.
So we have a lot of private schools who were able to create special needs centers. They are now practicing inclusive education in their schools. But when you go to the government institutions, you cannot see such.
Once the child starts heading to secondary school age and into adulthood, the child is just left unattended to. They are not learning how to live like community life. They are not learning how to, manage themselves, activities for daily living and all that, and even skill. My colleague and I will come across maybe nothing short of like 20 adults with special needs, and most of them are just left. I am telling you that. For example, there's one that we worked with a few months ago. He's 27. He doesn't know money.
They say despite the Child Rights Act being currently domesticated by 34 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, the situation has not changed.
The impediment is in the implementation aspect of that law. Now, while it has been accepted, all over and celebrated, I haven't actually seen where it's implemented in the public schools, whether the primary or the secondary. Whether we've not seen them being more inclusive, more accessible. Are they getting all the free books, materials, and all of that? No.
The education experts say that the task to educate special needs children has continued to pose a big challenge to the teachers owing to the non-implementation of available laws and policies. Some of them gave recommendations on the way forward.
There's nobody to speak up for the child. You understand? And then the cycle continues and continues and continues that way. So honestly, it is a beautiful thing that we have enacted these laws, but there's no follow-up. Have you ever heard that a school or someone was prosecuted because he discriminated against someone with disability? No.
So therapy is to help them to reduce the symptoms and then help them to live their best lives to the best of their ability. You understand? So now, what they do in those adult homes is just to take them through life generally, to tell them that, okay, you can do this, you can learn to do this, you can learn to do that, and they are okay. So I think it's something we should adopt in Nigeria. Instead of just after primary education, after secondary education, you just leave them. You just expose them to the society and they are just left unattended to. So that's one major thing that I think that we should adopt as a country.
The experts believe it is possible to end discrimination of persons with intellectual and physical disabilities. This, they say, is possible through continuous advocacy. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
Let's take you back to Rivers State, where we told you that the former governor, Nyesom Wike, and his successor, Sim Fubara, have been at loggerheads since October 2023, when some lawmakers in the state began impeachment proceedings against the current governor. Well, to shed more light on this and keep us up to speed is our correspondent who is currently in Rivers State, talking about Bernard Akede. Bernard, thank you for joining in. What do we know?
All right, thank you for having me, Dapo. Well, in the past few days, we've been on the ground here in the River State capital, Port Harcourt, and we've been speaking to, members of the Elders Council. We spoke to Chief Anabs Igbe yesterday, who is an activist and a member, and then we also spoke to a former deputy governor. I'm talking about Sir Gabriel Toby. He was a deputy governor between 1999 and 2007. And, well, the Elders Council want everything to go back to normal the way it was. There's disappointments among the Elders Council concerning how things are going. They believe that the governor is the governor. They do not understand what exactly is going on at the moment between both parties, and they hope that things will be back to normal, particularly for, for the good people of Rivers State. But besides the Elders Council, we've been speaking to people around us here, and then there's a gentleman who's with me. Coincidentally, we share the same name. His name is Bernard. Bernard, please come close. And I would like you to feel the pulse of the regular people on the streets of Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Bernard, concerning the issue going on, concerning Wike, the former governor, who is now the minister of the Federal Capital, and the current governor, Fubara, what do you think is the feeling of the people about what's going on at the moment?
Actually, from the beginning, nobody ever expected that Fubara was going to become the governor of Rivers State without the majority support of the political party PDP in Rivers State. But because the political party in the Rivers State was governed by Godfather, who initially campaigned against Godfatherism and urged youth never to agree Godfatherism, citing instances of disadvantages of Godfatherism, who later become the pioneer and the pro-fighter of the Godfatherism in Rivers State. I am a resident of Rivers State, not an indigenous, but if Rivers State grows well, I will enjoy the environment. Just like the few commissioners who were retiring cited instances of unhealthy environment, toxic environment. Toxicity is not because the environment was polluted by air or whatever pollutants, but because of the political pollution, which is the disagreement between the former governor and the current governor. Well, as for me, the former governor has not been the first governor of Rivers State. The last military administrative governor of Rivers State I know was from my state. I'm a Cross-Riverian. General Anthony Ukpo was a governor of Rivers State he's from Abuja, from Cross River State where I come from. That was during military administrative system. For the kilo, the likes of Odile, what's it called, Amechi, even before Amechi, the Raman, who ruled for 3 months, they have ruled. If this pattern of system has been in place, I think there wouldn't have been peace from that time to today. But because when you rule and leave your seat, lay your structure, pray God, man has decision to take, but God is the final decision taker. You don't mandate people to follow the way you have planned, because before you succeeded, God have already made that way.
Okay, Bernard, let me quickly ask you now, just before we go, would you say the people, the citizens, or the residents like you of Rivers State want from this political situation now?
The two political fighters to chief their sword so that the peace of mind, businesses, and every transaction can be achieved in the state. And I will also urge the current governor, as he's fighting, he shouldn't, after succeeding the success of this fight tomorrow, become another cabal, that others will come and start fighting him. But as for me, I will urge the minister, he has made his part. He has, thank God, he didn't fall backwards. He has gone ahead. Let him fight and make the further political structure for himself. And let the state have, because for the nation where he is a minister today, it's not only Rivers State that is ruling the nation. Other states and regions combine forces to make the FCT. Okay. Thank God he understands that. But as for me, I will advise he shift his sword. Let there be peace. Government has 4 years in a tenure. I will have 2 years, both based on what the constitution have been organized. This is the first tenure of the governor. After the first tenure, if there's any disagreement, they should politically run that on the ground and make what comes of the next tenure. If he does well, they still will vote him. If he does not do well, they still will vote him hard. By then, he cannot return his structure that is calling structure in place.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Bernard. Thank you so much. Well, basically, Dapo, this, I would say, is the summary of most of the people of Rivers State, whether the Elders Council or the good people of Rivers State, and even those who are not indigents, who merely are residents in the state doing their business. They just want peace to reign. They want both parties to sheath their sword, have mutual understanding, and ensure that governance is run the way it should run.
All right, thank you so much for the updates, Bernard Akede. Now, the Nigerian government has announced its stoppage of the issuance of electricity regulatory autonomy to the state government as it commenced a review of the policy. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, while speaking at the 8th edition of the Africa Energy Marketplace Conference in Abuja, said it appeared state governments and other stakeholders had no clear idea yet of what it takes to operate in the electricity market. The federal government had, in compliance with the amended Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Electricity Act of 2023, issued an order to transfer regulatory oversight of the electricity market in Ondo, Ekiti, and Enugu states from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to the State Electricity Regulatory Bureau. But Adelabu said there was now a need for a fresh look at the policy to enable states and other regulators understand what is required to operate an electricity market. To discuss this, I'm joined by business and social policy analyst Kenneth Ikenwa. Thank you for your time, Kenneth. Now, let's start by saying what's your assessment of the country's power sector in the last 12 months?
All right, Dapo, thanks for having me on. I'll start first of all by saying Shalom Shabbat. That is peace be unto you. All right, when we come to the power sector in Nigeria, the assessment is not far-fetched. Very obviously, we can see what the different dispensations and different administrations have tried to do with respect to augmenting power distribution, power generation, power transmission in Nigeria. But if I'm supposed to speak for a majority of the Nigerian people, the citizenry and the populace, I would want to rate the power sector performance in this dispensation 1 out of 10. I think, let us be fair to say, they have just performed average. There's a lot of room for improvement. And as the conversation goes on, we can pin down some pivots that will possibly be an advisory, generate some pieces of advice for the government on how we can move the sector and take it to the next level and make it a major catalyst for driving development and economic growth in Nigeria. As it stands, no, it's an average performance. And in fact, I will be able to say it's a below average performance as it stands currently.
Let's talk about what you would say are the reasons behind the government's decision to halt the issuance of electricity regulatory autonomy to state governments.
All right, we have been seeing instances like this in this country, and it just goes to show the buffet of policy somersaults and how these policy somersaults tend to stifle innovation and tend to stifle integration and progress in different sectors of the economy. But now let's come back to power itself. Now, the present withdrawal or the present directive to put a hold on the implementation of this aspect of the Electricity Act 2023, it throws up a lot of dialectics and a lot of polemics. But let me not dwell on the polemics. Let me dwell on the dialectics. Now, is the Minister of Power actually right? What he has present position that he has taken, but we still also have to look at it from the bigger picture. Now, I think one of the reasons that he has given is that the market is not mature. And that brings me back to it means that look at the power sector, the power industry, look at the life cycle of. I think it is not a question of the power market or electricity market. The question or the electricity market is actually in a state of decline. And one would have thought the implementation of this policy and the full implementation of the Electricity Act at this stage of decline will have been a good strategy to rejig the sector and to bring it back to a stage of growth. But I think the major thing that they have cited as the government and is that the capabilities are on ground and there is no clear-cut understanding of what the regulation and what autonomy actually implies. In that respect, I would say one, for capacity, yes, that capacity is not fully on ground for the states and for the subnationals. And with respect to autonomy actually indicates that in itself is a problem. So there must be a need for us to clear this ambiguity so that we can reduce the volatility in the sector, reduce the complexity in the sector, and prepare the sector to discharge the growth that is needed and serve as the appropriate catalyst that will be of multiply effect and benefits to the Nigerian people.
How will this review of the policy affect the ongoing efforts to decentralize electricity regulation and even generation in the country as a whole?
All right, I think most appropriate what there would be, the view is aimed at actually deregulating the sector. But as it stands, the sector, this review would definitely put an end to that sectoral deregulation. And what that will mean is that the government and the NEC, the Nigerian National Electricity Regulation Commission, will still continue to play the major pivotal role of regulating electricity in Nigeria. Now, what that means is that we're not going to be able to expand the value chain actors in electricity sector in Nigeria. And that will also mean that for now, we may just have to keep coping with the level of efficiency, inefficiency, and X efficiency that is characteristic of that particular sector. But once this the major aspects of Electricity Act are implemented, it means we can expand the various actors in the electricity sector. We can, make the value chain more competitive, and then that will position Nigerians gain more from the sector, and the pricing will be competitive, the service delivery will be competitive, and then we can start thinking of even how to generate more revenue from that sector by exporting energy out of the country.
All right, thank you so much for being with me on the news at this time. Of course, Kenneth Ikenwa. Of course, at this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. The Nigerian government may consider assisting independent fuel marketers with funding to install compressed natural gas sale pumps at filling stations across the nation. This followed the cry of some independent petroleum marketers association of Nigeria that its members were unable to finance the installation of CNG sales pumps at their filling stations, in line with the presidential directive promoting the CNG initiative. Now, the marketers said the cost of installing CNG pumps was prohibitive for its members, adding that the high interest rate charged by banks also made borrowing money for the project an unattractive option. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had announced an end to the fuel subsidy era during his inauguration on May 29, 2023, a move that triggered a hike in the cost of the product. The 6 governors of Nigeria's northeast are urging the federal government to address key issues in their region and include the region in all national development plans. The plea was made in a communique signed by the Northeast Governors Forum chairman, Babangana Zulum, after their 10th meeting in Bauchi. The forum expressed concern over the region's month-long blackout and called for the immediate action from the Transmission Company of Nigeria. They proposed setting up solar power plants to generate at least 10 megawatts per state. They also called for the implementation of extending the 330 kV transmission line from Makurdi to Jalingo, linking to Adamawa, Gombe, Bauchi, and from Kano to Bauchi, linking to Yobe and Borno. As part of efforts to address the effects of climate change, the Plateau State government is looking into the issues of illegal mining, afforestation, drainage blocking, amongst others. This was disclosed by the State Commissioner for Environment, Peter Guam, during an event to commemorate this year's International Day for Climate Change, in partnership with the Center for Gospel Health and Development. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe was there and has this to report.
Unprecedented rainfall patterns, poor farm yields, devastating impact of climate change, among others, remain pointers of the effects of climate change and the need for all hands to be on deck if the world will experience a healthier environment. Records made available to News Central recently have it that 2024 has remained the hottest year in 20 years on the plateau, owing to the impact of climate change. Should frantic efforts be neglected in changing the narrative here, then attaining a healthy life for human beings will be a fight in futility.
The Plateau State government, through the ministry, has taken bold steps to address climate change through various initiatives. We are currently working on the domestication of the climate change policy, collaborating with CSOs and NGOs to mitigate the effects, like introducing improved seedlings, smart farming methods, introducing of some communities to eco-friendly cooking stoves, afforestation and reforestation of mining degraded lands, waste management, and so forth.
With the reality of climate change and its impact staring back at humanity, sensitization and community education remain very vital areas stakeholders need to engage in, and this cannot be overemphasized.
We'll be doing a lot of community engagement. We're going to have a town hall meeting with our stakeholders at the rural areas, targeting community structures such as the community development committees, the farmers groups, the community disaster and risks committees that we have formed and we are working with on the AR2CC. which is the enabling resilience to climate change-related risks through local CSOs project in Plateau State.
Noting the very minimal achievements recorded in the fight against the effects of climate change globally, inaccessibility to funds and critical resources remain the major issues that need to be resolved in order to achieve success. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Aniwi.
Where the government has commenced demolition of structures erected on lands owned by the state government. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu will monitor the exercise, completes the report.
House owners and occupants of these buildings around Musa Camp area, Asaba, are washing helplessly as their property are reduced to rubble by the bulldozers and excavators of the Delta State Task Force are recovering of government lands.
Boko Haram pursued me from Kano State. I'm here in my state already. See, I'm a widow with 7 children. See what our governor told these people to demolish our houses. If they tell us to regularize, at least we borrow money to regularize to the government. This hard time, where can I get another place to keep my children? With 7 children, even this year, for this university, my 3 children is there.
See where we can't demolish. We know they drag the land for una, but at least una for say make we give us like 1 week or 2 weeks. Say make we pack out everything. See what you wanna do. Everything that does scatter them.
Prior to the demolition, the Onitsha and Iyasere communities have laid claims to the land, saying it was leased to a missionary in 1954. But the Delta State government claimed the land belongs to Dennis Osadebe University, Awai, Asaba. Chairman of the task force said they were mandated by the state government to recover all government lands illegally occupied by individuals or corporate bodies across the state. He cautioned land grabbers across the state to stay away from government property.
We are people that will do everything under the law. Where we are standing is in the university land. And this land was acquired so many years ago. We have the documents as state government. If you want to see it, we'll give it to you. If you live here, go to the university authority, the archive is there. This place, people just come, organize themselves as community members, selling this land to very, very innocent people. And even these innocent characters, some of them even go to the ministry, and the ministry told them, this is a government land. Some of the characters of the ministry even give them a building approval. A building approval is not a CFO.
Despite complaints by these occupants, the state government is determined not to allow suspected land grabbers encroach into public property. In Asaba, for News Central, Austin Azu.
The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has commenced engagements with women groups on the benefits of the human papillomavirus vaccines, expected to reduce women's vulnerability to cervical cancer. This is ahead of government's plan to start the second phase of its routine immunization program, aimed at preventing cervical cancer, and also expected to be rolled out in 21 states of the Federation. Now, Idong Joseph tells us more.
According to available data, about 8,000 women in Nigeria die from cervical cancer, which is caused by human papillomavirus. While vaccines over the years have been developed to help prevent cervical cancer, there are, however, misconceptions about the use of the vaccine following their introduction to Nigeria.
We had the vaccines, we had the finances, we had the human resource, but we now had people who took it upon themselves to actually make Nigerians or deceive Nigerians, so to say, and put all sorts of stories out there where people spent their money to even make high-quality HD videos to try to discourage Nigerians.
As part of efforts to eliminate cervical cancer in the country, The federal government sometime last year began introducing the human papillomavirus vaccine into its routine immunization program. In order to introduce the vaccine into the second phase of the program, covering 21 remaining states, the federal government has commenced engagement with relevant women groups to sensitize them on the benefits of the vaccine.
Vaccines have opened our eyes. The one thing that is most important is that we need to sensitize people way ahead of when the vaccine would come. And that lesson was almost very costly for us in the first phase, and we're leaving no stone unturned in this second phase.
Because of their connection and also the vast network they have across the country, the major expectation is for them to pass right and correct information about the HPV vaccine so that eligible girls aged 9 to 14 years can come out for the vaccine to be vaccinated in schools and in communities with the vaccine from 27th of May 2024.
With cervical cancer being the second most common causes of death among cancer patients, notably women between the ages of 15 to 44 in Nigeria, experts say it is a wake-up call to protect the next generation of girls from the scourge. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Coming up on the news, junta-run Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have finalized plans to form confederation. We have details of this story and more after the break. The news continues in West Africa, where junta-run Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have finalized plans to form a confederation after turning their backs on former colonial ruler France to seek closer ties with Russia. Their foreign ministers met on Friday in Niger's capital, Niamey, to agree on a text establishing the Confederation of the Alliance of Sahel States. Niger Foreign Minister Bakri Yao Sangare, as he read the final statement late Friday, said the text would be adopted by the heads of state of the three countries at a summit without specifying the date. The three countries said late January they were quitting ECOWAS, which they said was under French influence, to create their own regional grouping. Ghana's president has urged his Senegalese counterpart to use his influence in ECOWAS to help resolve disputes with Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye arrived in Accra after visiting Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso announced their departure from ECOWAS in January 2024, following suspensions due to military coups. After meeting Faye, President Nana Akufo-Addo expressed optimism about Faye's role in addressing ECOWAS issues. He highlighted Faye's commitment to reviving dialogue and bringing the three countries back to the bloc. Speaking to reporters, the Ghanaian president praised Faye's dedication to ECOWAS efforts for further talks. Let's also tell you that hundreds rallied in Burkina Faso's capital on Friday to support the military rulers after gunfire was reported near the presidency. Demonstrators gathered in the central Ouagadougou, vowing to protect President Ibrahim Traoré. Musa Sawadogo, a demonstrator, mentioned hearing shots near the presidential palace and pledged to prevent any unrest. According to the Burkina Faso news agency AIB, someone attempted to attack a palace guard, but no injuries or damage occurred. Security forces closed off the area around the palace. Burkina Faso has been under military rule since soldiers overthrew elected President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore in 2022. In East Africa, a Kenyan opposition party, Third Way Alliance Kenya, has filed a new lawsuit to block the government from sending police to violence-plagued Haiti for a United Nations-backed mission. Leaders Kuru Alcott and Miruru Weru lodged the complaint, arguing that the government ignored a January court order deeming the deployment unconstitutional and illegal. The lawsuit emphasized urgency, citing reliable information that the deployment may occur by May 23rd. Haiti, long troubled by poverty, political instability, and natural disaster, is set to receive help from a multinational force led by Kenya to control criminal gangs. The deployment is expected to coincide with President William Ruto's visit to Washington to meet U.S. President Joe Biden on May 23rd. Up north, the Moroccan asylum seeker Ahmed Alid, who is aged 45, has been sentenced to life in prison for stabbing British man Terence Carney to death in Hartlepool. The attack was a response to Israel's actions following the October 7th Hamas attack. Judge Bobby Chama Grubb called it a terrorist act and sentenced Alid to a minimum of 44 years. Minutes before killing Carney, Alid attempted to murder his housemate Javid Nouri, a Christian convert, by attacking him in his sleep. The judge noted Alid's intention to frighten the British people and punish Nouri for converting to Christianity, showing no remorse for his actions. Still ahead, nearly 10,000 evacuated in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. We have details of this and more after the break. Nearly 10,000 persons have been forced to leave their homes in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region since a ground attack launched by Russian forces on May 10th. Governor Oleg said a total of 9,907 persons have been evacuated. According to him, they were fleeing Russian soldiers who managed to advance between 5 to 10 kilometers along the northeastern border. The official added that Ukraine's armed forces had repelled 2 attempts to break through its defense overnight. Moscow has been attacking several settlements, including Vovchnik, just 5 kilometers from the border. In the meantime, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that Russia's offensive in the Kharkiv region this month may only be a first wave, and Russian troops could aim for the city of Kharkiv. He said the situation in the region, which Russia has seized several border villages, was controlled but not stabilized after Ukraine sent reinforcements. The president also said Russian troops had penetrated between 5 to 10 kilometers along the northeastern border before being stopped by Ukrainian troops.
Ми розуміємо, що вони розраховують десь на 10-15 травня, може початок червня. Ось така була інформація. Приблизно, в принципі, так і сталося. Вони розпочали цю свою операцію. Вона може складатись просто з кількох хвилей. Тобто перша хвиля вона була, і там ситуація, те, що я вам сказав, контрольована після першої хвилі.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has staged a rally to woo voters in India's financial capital of Mumbai ahead of the country's polls on May 20th. India is in the middle of a 6-week election widely expected to deliver Modi a third term, in large part due to his cultivated image as an aggressive champion of the country's majority faith.
और जब से आपने इस सेवक को काम दिया, 10 साल में आज देश दुनिया की 5वें नंबर की आर्थिक ताकत बनकर के खड़ा है। मुंबई में रिकॉर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट आ रहा है और मेरी गारंटी है कि कुछ ही सालों में जब मैं आपके बीच आऊंगा तो हम दुनिया की तीसरी बड़ी आर्थिक ताकत बन चुके होंगे।
Progress nation. There is still a lot of poverty left in India to remove. There is still a lot of infrastructure to be developed. There is still a lot to be done for India to be a progressive nation. So only Modi can get us there. So we are all hoping, and we are all hoping for the better future. So Modi.
Let's move to business. The Nigerian federal government's plan to begin the issuance of domestic bonds denominated in foreign currency from the second quarter of this year will put pressure on the naira, some analysts have said, while others believe it will be a good trade-off for dollar inflows. Wale Edo, Nigeria's finance minister, said during a meeting with business executives in Lagos last month that the government plans to market foreign exchange bonds to Nigerians, both home and in diaspora. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, in its recent Article 4 consultation with Nigeria, said that the domestic issuance of foreign exchange denominated government securities will put pressure on the naira. The executive director of the National Deposit Insurance Corporation, Bello Hassan, has urged bankers in the country to pay attention to cybersecurity. He stated this on Friday at the swearing-in ceremony of Professor Pius Olanawaju as the 23rd president and chairman of the Council of Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria in Lagos. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu recently suspended the implementation of the cybersecurity levy after public outcry against it. Coach of Nigeria's under-17 female national football team, the Flamingos, Bankole Olowokere, says he is optimistic of victory against Burkina Faso in the return leg of the 2024 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifying match. The Flamingos drew 1-1 with the Burkina Faso girls in the first leg match played in Bamako, Mali on May 11th. The coach says the Flamingos are ready to make the nation proud by winning the second leg match against Burkina Faso. The victory over Burkina Faso will set the Flamingos up for the final qualifying fixture against the winner of the Senegal or Liberia match. Let's also tell you that midfielder Mohamed El Nani will leave Arsenal at the end of the season after 8 years at the Premier League club, the Egypt international said on Friday. El Nani joined Arsenal from Swiss side FC Basel in 2016 for £5 million and has made 161 appearances for the London club. A near injury restricted the 31-year-old to 8 outings during the 2022-23 season. He has made 6 appearances in all competitions in Arsenal's current campaign. Onani did not say where he would go after leaving Arsenal. He said he would bid farewell to fans at the Emirates on Saturday as Arsenal host Everton in their final league match, hoping for a Manchester City slip-up against West Ham United to secure their first title in 20 years. Let's also tell you that Britain's Jonathan Brooms-Edward made it 3 high jump titles in a row at the Para-Athletic World Championship in Kobe. Broome-Edwards, the 2019 World Gold medalist and a Paralympic champion, shared gold at last year's World in Paris with Poland's Maciej Lepito. Now, in Japan, the 35-year-old first-time clearance at the 2.04 meter was enough for gold. With silver went to U.S. former American football player Derek Loscident, who lost the lower part of his leg in a train accident in 2019 and who cleared 2.04 minutes at the third time of asking for a new personal best. Now, Lepito, who failed 3 times at a 2.04 to bronze, and when Broome-Edwards and Loscident could not clear 2.07, the title went to Broome-Edwards on counterback. And that's all on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Atiku Abubakar has promised to support Peter Obi if the People's Democratic Party zones presidency to Southeast ahead of 2027 Nigeria elections. We also told you that federal government has halted issuance of electricity regulatory autonomy to state governments. And finally, we told you that junta-run Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have finalized plans to form a confederation. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms. That's DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dakpo at Digboy. Bye for now.